What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another spoiler recap here at Big Gold Bell Media. I am Cam. This is my man Damien G over here, and we're going to talk about Tokyo Vice Season 2, Episode 8, premiering March 21st on Max. Okay. All right, guys, you've been hanging in there with us. 8 episodes so far. Finally, we're going to talk about it a little later, but we finally got to see what we wanted to see in this show.
Vindication.
Yes, everything is finally serving justice for us right now, and I'm super excited to talk about this episode. Just off the break, Damien, what did you think of this episode?
Okay, so we talked off air in the green room about the beginning of this episode with the Yakuza retirement home in the all-inclusive fucking resort in Hawaii.
Right, crazy start.
But in reality, when we put all these aspects of this episode together, this is probably the most cohesive episode I've seen all season from beginning to end, where I wasn't confused about plot points. Right. Everything was tied together so seamlessly. And maybe it's because we're on episode 8, where we're finally entrenched enough to know who's who. But this flowed so well. Everyone's story mattered. Everybody who's a main player had their own come to Jesus moment almost in this episode.
Yeah.
And everything flowed well. And even there were some bit characters that we're going to get into where we didn't hear from them the majority of this season, but it seems as if they're major players going forward, which for me is something to keep an eye on. And we'll get to that, especially when we talk about being Paulinaed, which is what we've been saying this whole season at various reviews. We tell people who we think is going to get Paulinaed. Right. But now we have a new list, but I can't wait to get into it. This was a really good episode.
Yeah, same. I definitely thought this was a really good episode that connected all the dots that we've been missing in the past 7. But it just keeps getting more and more intricate. The storyline as well as the relationships between all the characters in here. And I'm excited to see where it goes forward in the next couple of episodes, because we'll be closing out, within a couple of weeks. So I don't want it to end. This is really good, though. So, of course, like you stated, this episode started off seeing, I guess, 5 Yakuza gang members actually spending time in Hawaii next to poolside, right? They're just hanging out in their tiny little bathing suits. And I'm like, bro, this is way too small. Bigger shorts, 1996. Crazy. But they're hanging out. They're drinking beers. And a waitress comes over and she's like, here you go, sir. Here's your drink. And it's a blue Hawaiian, right? And they're speaking in Japanese, and they're like, dude, I didn't order this. Like, what's going on? Like, what the hell? And all of a sudden, the lady draws a gun out, and they're like, FBI, freeze. And this is like where the episode kind of kicks or starts off, because I think we were both kind of confused watching the episode. We're like, what's happening right now? Like, where are we? Why are we in Hawaii? How did we get here? Did we skip an episode? Did I miss something?
That's what I thought.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, maybe I'm on the wrong episode right now, or I'm confused. But it was a great, I guess, way to kind of introduce the FBI into the scene, just to say like, hey, they are prime players into trying to figure out what some of the criminal acts or what the criminals are actually doing, not only in the US, but also in Tokyo as well.
Abroad.
So, so it kind of was just like an introduction to let them know like, hey, the US embassy is really keeping an eye on these people, but we'll get into it, because they're not doing their job to the full extent at this point. It's sneaky. It's always some lies somewhere. It's always one little lie or one big lie at this point.
Big lie.
And then it picks back up. Jake is back now. Just returned back from Minnesota, I believe, right? I think he went to the clinic. Yeah, he went to the clinic in Minnesota, got this information from the doctor who's got this $200,000 watch on that took a Japanese nationalist, which he's not supposed to do, and give him a liver transplant. So now Jake is trying to talk to the deputy director. What was her name? I keep forgetting her name.
Just the deputy director.
Director. We'll keep it at that, though. And Katagiri, they basically approach Jake's house and kind of just talking to him about what he found and the information and how they're gonna like go forward using this information in here.
Yeah.
And Jake is finally going back to work, and they're immediately they're trying to figure out, why is Jake here? Like, Jake, we sent you on leave.
He had 4 more days.
4 more days. He came back to work early. He loves his job so much that he was like, you know what, I got to be here.
Yep.
So of course he bought a couple gifts, I guess, to like smooth it over a little bit.
Well,
but
my man Tintin some maple syrup, yo.
Tintin got maple syrup for his cakes, and I was like, oh, that's funny. I was like, I think he kind of like tried to poke fun at him still a little bit though, because Tintin, he didn't really say thank you. He was just like, oh, all right, thanks for the syrup. But then he actually gave what's his name? God, the other reporter that was
Trendy.
next to him. Trendy actually got a really good gift though. He got a Kirby Puckett.
Yeah, he got a Kirby Puckett jersey.
I was like,
exactly.
Man, that's pretty official right there. If anybody knows a little bit about baseball, Kirby Puckett was the man back in the 90s. So to get a jersey like that, I mean, I'm sure it didn't cost much, but to money back then, it was probably pretty expensive, most likely.
Of course.
And then, you know, he talks to Emmy and says like, hey, I got an amazing story for you. But he doesn't actually tell her yet what it is. He's like, all right, I need to figure out a little bit more information about it, because he knows jumping the gun like Tintin is not the best course of action at this point, because it gets you burned in being a reporter at this point. So
of course,
story kind of jumps around a little bit, and then we get to see Misaki, right? She's been nervous since the last episode, which was like 2 days ago from what I remember. And so for 2 days she's been panicking. 3 days she's been losing her mind, thinking, okay, the driver saw me leaving Jake's house. I signed some paper that I don't know what I signed it to. And I think we called it, matter of fact. We called it. We were like, oh, she signed that paper, and that's probably Tozawa trying to reward her with the mother's house, right? So she gets back to turns out that's what happened. She gets back to the penthouse. Tozawa's excited. He's like ecstatic to see Misaki. And she's like trembling. He's like, oh my God, you're trembling. Did you tell her what I did for her? And, you know, and the driver's like, he's got this like stone cold stagnant face. He's like, no. I'm like, dang, he really don't give no type of emotion at all. Because we actually figure out who's he actually loyal to in this whole entire show. So come to find out, yeah, he ended up giving the whole deed of the house to Misaki for her mom's home, and
good guy Tozawa.
Yeah, good guy Tozawa at this point. And like, he seemed kind of nice for a second. I was like, okay, maybe he's not all that bad. And then I remembered he's terrible. He's actually really terrible.
He's a horrible human being.
He's a horrible person, because he subjected this woman to all types of cruel punishment, as well as abuse, and physically and mentally, just being in a relationship with him. So it's tough. I'm like, man, I mean, you give her a house, I think she might need a little more than that. Like,
he kept his word to the professional side chick. So yeah.
They get back in the elevator. Misaki and the driver get back in the elevator, and Misaki says, why didn't you tell him? And he kind of like does that little stone cold glare, and they get back. He says, you got one more appointment. She's thinking like, oh, I'm free. I'm about to go home. I'm not about to get Paulina out here. I'm good. I'm good to go. He said, you got one more appointment. I'm thinking, we're watching and we're like, one more appointment. I was like, sounds like she's
getting Paulina.
She about to die. Yeah, that's it. You signed the paper. He just wanted to tease you a little bit. Come to find out Tozawa not that nice. He was just messing with you,
Yeah.
Pulling your strings. And come to find out, her next appointment actually is with Tozawa's actual wife.
Yep.
Who's actually trying to make some power moves in here to figure out what Tozawa's main plan is. Because she, even though she is I don't want to call her a beneficiary of the power or the leverage that Tozawa has gained on the world of Tokyo right now, but I feel like she would benefit somewhat, right?
Well, but that's the thing. We find out during this episode that he was just a street thug,
right,
that was taken in by her and her family, who is of affluence.
Right.
So she might be the one pulling the strings behind the scenes that we don't know about. What I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this review about bit players who are stronger than we realize. Because later in the episode, she mentions to Tozawa about his political, I guess, his plan of attack, which we'll talk about.
Right.
And she's telling him like, nah, you're wrong on this. Like, this is the way to go about building more power. And he's trying to go another way. And she basically calls him, oh, once a thug, always a thug.
Right.
But remember, my family's the one that put you on.
Right.
So
In the first
don't bite
place.
the hand that feeds you.
Right. Exactly.
So interesting.
And it's crazy because she's so like relaxed when she
Yes.
talks, but the authority figure makes you feel like your mom's yelling at you in like a low moderate tone, and that's how I
Mhm.
felt. Like she was talking to him more like a son than
Yeah.
as
She
an
sunned him,
actual
exactly.
husband, or
Mhm.
like honestly, like it seems like Tozawa seems like he's actually beneath her at this point, because even when she would kind of not back talking but belittle him, he would just stare and be mad. You know how you're like a kid and you get yelled at
Yeah.
and you're like, all right, I don't want to get beat, so I'm just gonna I'm just gonna be upset and go in my room. Like
No,
that's exactly
exactly.
how he looked.
Because every time Tozawa tried to check her, she checked him,
Right.
which for
Right.
me explains why they're married, because like
Makes
she
sense.
can give it back to him when
Right.
he gives
Exactly.
out. So
Exactly.
his Tozawa-ness did not work on his wife in this situation.
Right. And I was wondering about the I mean, this is kind of a little bit off subject, but like her dress, right? Her outfit that she was wearing. Is that more like, I'm not sure if we either of us know the answer to this, to be honest with you. Maybe somebody in the comments can leave a note in there and just let us know. She has more of a traditional look, right? Tozawa has more of a moderate, new age business type
Yes,
look,
modern businessman
right?
tycoon look, where she's
Right.
more, I want to say, um, traditional
Right. Yeah,
in that
traditional look.
sense.
Right.
But the way she, and to your point, the way she carried herself
Hmm.
while wearing this outfit of what would seem of yesteryear,
Yeah.
while still talking to Misaki, say basically holding court over
Right.
everybody,
Right.
even though she's the wife of the most powerful yakuza in all of Tokyo.
Hmm.
But it's like, who is really the boss here? To say
Right.
who's the boss, like Tony
Right.
Danza.
Right.
Like that's what this episode for me showed me, is that, oh, Tozawa's not really the boss.
No,
His
he's not.
wife's the boss. She wants him to make these power plays, it seems.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Because she
It's
punked Misaki.
And I think it's so crazy because it seems like the whole entire situation would be a lot more cleaner, or it would have been a lot more straightforward as far as all these extra messy components is like,
Yes.
having a side girl, having all this gang activity. It wouldn't be happening if she was probably fully in control as well. Because it
Right.
seems like all of the playfulness and all the extracurricular activities are all coming from Tozawa at this point.
Yeah.
And it seems like he's kind of mucking up the situation at this point. But she's very trying to clear cut and trying to make things more formidable for the future for
Streamlined.
both of them. Yeah, because Tozawa, I mean, obviously he's the face at this point and he's got the power, but obviously there's
But
somebody's
she's the
pulling the
puppeteer, it
strings.
seems.
Somebody's
Exactly.
pulling the
She's the puppeteer.
strings. Exactly. But
And that's
essentially,
just one aspect of the show. This
right.
episode. Continue.
Right. And yeah, it's just a small little piece, honestly, of the show, with maybe like 2 or 3 minutes. And it just kind of expands into this whole new world that we see. And we're like, oh man, what have we been watching the last 7 episodes or the last 2 seasons? What is going on right now? And essentially, when she has this conversation with Misaki, she says, I want to know everything that my husband is doing that he's not telling me. And if I find out that you're lying, I'm going to tell him about you
And the
and
Gaijin.
Jake, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Gaijin, you and Jake, and
He'll kill
he's
you.
gonna kill you. He's gonna kill you, and we all know that. I mean, I could have not guessed that if the driver would have told him right there. That deed would have been really done, and she would have been done too, along with it. But yeah, then the episode gets ready to cut back, and we get to see what was the other part in the beginning? Do you remember what happened? Well, afterwards, there was another part where we actually talked to the minister, right? So the wife actually was in not her office, but I guess like in her apartment state, and she was talking to the minister, right? And I believe he was the minister of finance during that time.
He's
right?
one of them, yes.
Which is
the guy
which is
from
pretty
the
high
first
position.
episode this season.
Right.
On the boat.
And yep. Oh my God, yeah. The guy that Paulina, Paulina, right?
The guy who's out Paulina, exactly.
And obviously they have leverage on him now because they know what he did, right? You don't want that exposed. So he's like, oh, all right, I'm under your thumb. So he's having a conversation with the wife, but I think the conversation was only supposed to be between him and the wife. And of course, here comes Tozawa, boom, storming in, like, hey, what's going on here? Like, y'all not y'all not telling me, what's everything's happening or what, I'm supposed to be involved with and what I'm supposed to do. And the wife basically says, Tozawa, calm down. Like, like chill out, because we're trying to make something global instead of something just rich within the city, So they're having a conversation. Of course, the Minister of Finance seems terrified, though, to be honest with you, because he probably still knows that even though Tozawa has this new look as a businessman, he's still a loose cannon at the end of the day. And he will probably have him gone by tomorrow. But since he's kind of like under the protection of the wife, there's some more power play coming into effect now. So Minister kind of scurries out of there pretty fast. And then we get to kind of move on and we get to see what's going on between Samantha and Sato. Right?
Yo.
Here we go with this again.
I hate Samantha so much. So much.
I feel like I understand going back to not even just the comments, but also watching more of the show, I feel like she's a little misunderstood, but at the same time, she has her faults and flaws for sure, right? Just the character alone, because I feel like she's just her ultimate goal is so conflicted, right? She wants to be this independent person that's able to fund their own stuff, do what they want, when they want, and kind of have to answer to nobody, right?
Right.
Everybody has to answer to somebody, right? No matter where you do, what you do, or where you work, somebody has to answer to somebody. There's always a higher power above you at this point. And I don't think she respects that. She just wants to kind of get through and do things on her own terms. And it's slowly getting more and more dangerous for her. What do you think? I mean, what's going to be the end result of Samantha, man? Like,
all right, so let's walk the audience through a couple of things with Samantha. Number one, she's still trying to find money to pay her girls because the club is out of commission. She still hasn't got the insurance check. And I don't even know how much money she has, but we do find out she had a small stash somewhere in her house.
Right.
Which she uses later, a bankroll for something else. But not only is she still fucking around with Sato, right? Our boy. That's one. Two, she's still trying to find ways to get money. So continuing from last episode, where Paulina's ex that appeared on TV, what I told y'all last week,
Akira,
appeared on TV, Akira, was like, hey, that's the guy I'm going to go get money from because that was Paulina's mans and thems.
Right.
And what does she do? She goes to Sato, or Sato comes over, they're canoodling, they're talking, and Sato gives her his gun for protection. That's what she told Sato she needs it for, protection.
Right.
What does she do? She calls Erica, right? She calls Erica to pose as a fan of Akira to go to his house, because how'd she find his address? The former owner that the Shihirakai and all of them were trying to crack down earlier in this season, she took that last bankroll to the lady and said, where's Akira?
Right.
Because Akira owes that lady money.
Right.
So that man owes money to not just Samantha. So she took the last of her bankroll, paid for this information. The woman says, when you find them, don't make it nice. So obviously people want to kill Akira or whoop his ass, especially the ladies.
Right.
So she gets Erica, who's venting to her about Sato and the club, and says, hey, yeah, okay, but can I borrow you for an hour? To get her to pose as a super fan, knocking on Akira's door. And then when Akira opens the door, like, hey, girl, Samantha kicks the door down, talking about where my money, like Stewie Griffin, where my money, where my money. She assaults this man. Yeah. She kicks this man, pistol whips this man, looks through all his wardrobe, says, why don't you have shit? I thought you were rich. You were on TV looking like $1 million. And Akira's on the floor crying like a little baby, talking about, they just give me stuff to wear. I give it right back, trying to front like the lifestyle. So not only does this man have no money to give Samantha because this man has stolen money from Samantha before,
right?
She's assaulting a man in his own home, pistol whips him, beats his ass, makes him bleed, and then Erica has to pull her off of him because Erica didn't know she had the gun that was given to her by Sato. So she held this man at armed robbery status. And then Erica, of all people, was like, yo, we got to go, Samantha. Like, what you doing? Pulls her off. And then they make their hasty escape while my man Akira's on the floor crying. So that tells you the desperation that Samantha's going through.
Oh, yeah.
Because earlier this season, as much as I can't stand her, she had a demeanor of calm, collected, head bitch in charge. Yeah. But as we noticed the last 3 episodes, that facade has been breaking. From when she got caught by the architect, from the shooting, and yes, there might be some PTSD involved with that, to now resulting to thuggery.
Yeah.
To try to beat a man for money. So what do I think is going to happen to Samantha? I said this earlier this season. She is the ultimate opportunist. Mm-hmm. And I foresee that still happening. And do I think she'll get Paulina'd? No. I highly doubt she'll get I think we want her to, but she won't get Paulina'd.
No, I feel the same way. I feel like if anything, there's gonna be like innocent bystander get taken out, and it might be Erica
because of her,
which is the worst part. Because Erica was there and she was exposed, and now he knows her name too. He knows Samantha. Okay, obviously he knows this girl. Can figure out her name because he got her once. He got her for like a couple million before.
Yep.
But I'm like, where did the money go? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, all right, a couple million.
Probably.
Parlays. Who knows at this point, right? I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Kings back then.
Like, gee, okay, this is just getting ridiculous. So following this little part right here, Jake actually meets with, I believe it's not a nationalist. Was she a senator, I think, at the
before this though. Remember, before this, him and Trendy meet with Trendy's boyfriend.
Yeah, was Jason his name? Or is it, I believe, Jason or Michael? I think it's Jason though.
It's Jason, yes.
It's Jason. So yeah, they meet with Jason at the restaurant. They're kicking back some gin and tonics.
In the daytime.
In the daytime on lunch break. And basically just trying to get more information about, I guess, where Jason actually works at, or either how he can...
the State Department, how he can help with Tozawa. Like, hey, what would you know about
this whole extradition type process? Like, will they extradite him if he created this committed these crimes, or what would they do? What type of action they would take? So essentially he was just trying to get a date or a meeting with the actual State Department. That's located in Tokyo, right? The FBI. Mm-hmm. So he meets with one of the, I wouldn't say that she's a detective, but she's, I guess, one of the.
She's a higher up in that part, yeah.
Meets with her, having a conversation, just trying to get. So Jake is the type of guy when he goes into an interview, he always has an alternative motive to what he's actually interviewing.
Her name is Lynn.
Lynn. Okay. Yeah. The guy's name's Lynn?
No, Lynn Oberfeld.
Okay, all right. That's what I was. Okay, yeah. So when he gets into these meetings, he always has an alternative motive for asking these questions, right?
Of course he does.
He asks earlier questions to kind of soften you up, gain your trust, and then he tries to throw in like a little screwball. And most of the time it actually does work, because a lot of people end up answering his questions with no type of thought process of, okay, this could be incriminating me, or, I could be falling into a trap, because Jake's got a likable face. Let's be honest here. I mean, we don't like him most of the time, but people love him on the show. So fall for all his crap at this point. So he's talking to Lynn, and he throws a hypothetical question out there that said, hey, what if I had a Japanese nationalist that went over to the US illegally, had a liver transplant, and came back and hasn't been extradited or any type of crime, or hasn't been
like, how did he get in?
Accountable, right? Mm-hmm. And she's basically like, wow, this hypothetical question got very, very specific,
very precise.
So he goes ahead and just spills the beans about what he has on this person, on Tozawa. And she's like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna call some people and try to check it out. She's a liar. Okay, let's just say that. I don't believe anything Lynn says after this. Yeah, full of shit. Because Lynn calls him, I think maybe maybe the next day, right? Calls him the next day. Got him on speaker. You could tell she's a little nervous because she's pacing around in that room, right? Mm-hmm. Trying to build up this lie. She's like, oh, yes. Checked it out. I think it was just a mix-up. Come to find out, there actually is a man who's actually Japanese who lives I think he's lived in what, Florida? They should say no, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, and he's a high school teacher, but he's fully American, and they got the names mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
How you end up getting the names, and you called Tozawa's phone number too? But I don't think she don't know that he has that information though, the actual phone call recording though.
Right.
So she's like, oh, okay, all right, well, just be all right. But obviously Lynn is trying to hide something, is sweeping underneath the deck at this point. And even when she was giving the information to Jake, she was saying, okay, this has to be like 1,000 miles off the record, right?
Yeah.
Usually when people start it off, most people, he put his pen down thinking like, oh, it must be just a mistake.
Good information. Yeah.
Lynn's a liar.
Lies.com, okay? Sir.
It's sad. The people you think you can trust the most on the show are usually the ones you can't trust at all. Do you think we're going to see more of Lynn, and this is going to be like roll into a bigger, I guess, scandal?
I mean, considering the actress that plays her, Geraldine Hughes, has a pretty decent career, I wouldn't be surprised if she's more than a bit character. Like she might have a little bit more to do in the next couple of episodes. Right. Because this is my first time seeing her. I don't know if anyone else has seen her in this show.
I think we saw her. We saw her earlier in like a couple episodes.
Okay.
But it was when we first met Jason though.
Okay.
At the little gala that they had. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So she's not a bit player. So she has a little bit more to give to this story. But it was her. It's like you said, she was searching for words to say, like a word salad to throw Jake off, hemming and hawing, pacing around the room. Yeah. Classic deflection, classic governmental bullshit, red tape, trying to stop him from doing what he needs to do, which leads you to believe that either Lynn's in on it or someone above her is in on it, and she's got to put out that fire.
Right.
But our boy Jake ain't trying to hear that.
He don't hear nothing. Jake don't hear nothing. I will say this about Jake though. He good at lying, so he could smell a lie a mile away. He was like, he hung up the phone. He was like, let me go talk to Emmy because I obviously got a real good story right now. She's trying to cover this up. So, of course, she even told him, you need to go ahead and start pressing on this, right?
That's what made me realize too, because like you said, Emmy, the fact that Emmy's pushing him to do it, because remember, last episode, she sent Tintin to go find out about her boss, like his dealings with the Tozawa gang, just in case, because he might be the reason why the building blew up. So here we are. Now she's like, wait a minute. Somebody else tied to Tozawa that's trying to stop my investigation from my own newspaper. Go get it. Because this is going to build a case against her boss potentially, which is why she wants Jake to go get it.
Exactly.
She got her own thing. Yeah.
And it even kind of leads into that. So Jake goes to, obviously goes to Emmy and tells her everything. Emmy's like, follow it. You got to follow this because something's going on here. And it kind of cuts into Emmy and Tintin talking about what they actually found, or what Tintin actually found about her boss. Kind of find out when he worked at another paper, he was writing these like boostering articles about Tozawa and how he's like kind of like a good guy and like get him interviews like puff pieces on him, right? And obviously now all of a sudden he's in this higher position at another paper, but nobody ever researched that there was some type of relationship between him and Tozawa. Like these were like verbal first person interactions with quotes from Tozawa in the actual paper. So they had to have some type of in-person interaction for him to even be able to write an article on Tozawa. Tozawa wouldn't even allow anything to go into the paper probably that wasn't a puff piece. Let's be honest.
No, you're right. Absolutely right.
And we find that out later on, don't we, as well? We'll go back. Let's go back one more part. So yeah, we're almost there though. So Sato, as we know, has recently been been banned, right? He's been kicked out of the Shai Harakai by Hayama, right? He is an outlaw. He's the Lone Ranger by himself. Basically his number one in command that Ashita basically assigned to Sato to basically his life is yours because you tried to kill him and Sato survived. So you do everything for this guy. That's it. Comes back to him and deals him his letter, kind of like his letter of resignation, like, hey, here you go. Yeah, this is your
his forced resignation letter.
This paper says you got fired. You can't sue us. Here you go. All right. He's like, oh, all right, cool.
His NDA.
Sign this NDA. You be okay. Don't worry about it. We'll go send you some severance. So he's sitting there and he's just, honestly, he's more concerned about his brother. And of course, that just feels like his main reason for doing everything is his brother at the end of the day, which makes sense. Yes. So his number one man, honestly, kind of tells him that, like, yeah, Hayama went after Tozawa's people, and now Kaito is actually involved because he shot one of them. So Sato's like, all right, man. I mean, he doesn't say anything, or we don't get any type of indication that he's going to go back. But we know, we're like, okay, I think a fire finally lit in Sato, because I think Sato was kind of satisfied that he was out for a little bit. But he's also still worried about his brother because he can't keep an eye on him now at this point. If he's this far away from him, there's no way for him to at least try to protect
him. Out of Hayama's, out of his grasp. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why he was like actually staying in or playing ball with Hayama, is because, okay, at least here I can keep an eye on my brother, right? And make sure he's okay. But if I'm all the way out there, if I'm kicked out, there's no way for me to be able to dictate or either kind of help guide Hayama from sending my brother on some crazy ass mission that'll probably get him killed. Hence what we saw before. So yeah, I mean, Sato decides, you know what? I gotta go. I don't even think he went to go talk to him though. Like, we get this crazy scene where we get to see all the Shiharakai in a bathhouse.
In the bathhouse,
everybody's washing themselves, and here comes Hayama, right? Hayama just being the worst person ever. He asks Kaito, he's like, hey, come wash my back.
Scrub my back.
What? I'm like, huh? You scrub my back? I'm like, hey, I'm not here for this. Like, what's going on right now? I was like, this is giving me like jailhouse vibes. What's going on?
Treat him like his young boy, exactly.
What happened? I said, oh no. I said, oh God, this is getting crazy. Remind you, everybody's like butt naked in here, right? It's just buckets, water, and bodies all over the place, like crazy. I'm like, man, this is this is a little wild. So here comes Sato. Comes in. Sato's wearing all black now, like
wicked out. Yeah, he ready to go.
All black t-shirt on. I'm like, oh man, he ready to fight. I think he got his members only jacket on. He walks in, sleeves rolled up, and then him and Hayama, they exchange a few words. The throwdown begins. And I'll be honest with you, not impressed with the fighting skills. When you saw this fight, right? Where did you think like, man, they're killing it right now? Or were you like,
okay, so let's set the table real quick for the audience. So we have been talking about this for weeks now, right? The final confrontation between Sato and Hayama. Like, oh, it's gonna go down. We think, we talked about Sato coming in guns blazing to take out Hayama.
Right.
This all goes down in a bathhouse with a whole bunch of naked Shiharakai Yakuzas just chilling, like you said, scrubbing and bubbling. Yeah. And this comes, Sato walks in and says, yo, I don't want no trouble. I'm just here for my brother.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
I want my brother. And then Hayama, because like you say, he's the worst person ever, tries to get the rest of the Shiharakai to say, yo, take care of my light work.
Right.
And they all get up, but they get up kind of sheepishly. Like they don't really know what to do because they respect Sato and they hate Hayama. So it's like, wait, if the new, Oyabon is telling us we gotta do this, but like that's our boy, we really want to follow our boy. And I'll give him credit.
Yeah,
our man Kaito finally came out and spoke up against Hayama, stop being a little bitch, and said, Hayama killed one of ours, and then the story was corroborated by Sato.
Yeah.
And then him and Hayama finally, they throw down, or at least we think they're gonna throw down. Right now, my hands up right now is more effort than Hayama gave in this entire fight. Okay?
Yeah, crazy.
Hayama, first off, Hayama looks bigger in his suits. Let's just say that.
Way bigger.
Because my man Buckner looks like Dawson from Street Fighter. Okay, bony AF. He tries to choke Sato in the most like soft way possible.
Crazy.
Like, and they're wrestling and they're tussling on the floor. And audience, I'm telling you now, it's as bad as I'm making it seem like. Until it's a whole bunch of man wrestling on the floor. Until Sato finally takes his thumb, puts it in Hayama's eyeball, makes him go blind in the eye, right?
Yeah.
And then he's got the upper hand. And what happens? You think the Shihurikai steps in? Nope. All you see is Sato, blah, 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 or at least 10 unanswered punches.
Unanswered.
Yeah, he's just on the floor flopping like a Magikarp in Pokemon. And then the best part of the episode happens where I let out a scream, and I told you in the group chat, I said, hell effing yes. Because you even said, you asked the question, you said, wait, if they own this bathhouse, how are they going to cover up Hayama getting his ass beat?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, how are they going to cover this up? Still murder.
If you've seen the sequel to Unbreakable, and they took Bruce Willis's face and put it in the puddle for him to drown, that's what they did to Hayama. But the funny part isn't that they drowned Hayama. It was the fact that Sato started it, and then the rest of the Shihurikai joined in.
Let me put a hand. It's like baptizing them. Everybody's baptizing them together.
It was a reverse baptism where they drowned this man in the bathhouse, butt ass naked. And then Sato walks out.
Yeah, and there was like no type of discussion like, okay, who's going to get rid of the body? Like, I guess it's figured out. I don't know. I mean, it was just one of those unspoken type things, obviously.
And one more thing, I'm not going to lie to the audience. I will say Sato didn't do everything by himself. His right hand, who gave him the resignation papers, he comes in during the fight when it looks like Hayama has the upper hand and just clocks my man Hayama in the back of the head to give Sato the upper hand, because he knows that this dude Hayama is not fit to lead this group.
Yeah.
So Sato got friends in high places still, even though he was excommunicated.
Meager fight, man.
Meager
but I'm glad about the end results, to be honest with you, because like you said, this has been 7 episodes coming, and we've been like, all right,
we've been waiting.
We got to get this guy out of here. I was gonna apply for a role if I could just take him out of this. I'm like, please let me be anybody. The stand-in, I don't care. It was wild. So yeah, I mean, all is well. Finally, Hayama is not in power anymore. So I mean, there's some type of relief and comfort there. I think for anybody or any viewer watching right now, there's gonna be no retribution from Hayama's death. Ain't nobody looking for him at this point. And then we kind of cut to Jake meeting with the right hand of Tozawa, right? So him got an invitation. Because Katagiri, did Katagiri set that up, or they both
somebody else set that up, and Katagiri went to be a support for Jake.
Okay, yeah.
To make sure no shenanigans went down.
Right, exactly. I think Jake was probably scared and was like, please.
Of course he was.
Please come with me. Like, they're gonna kill me.
But remember why? Because Nagata got fired.
Yeah, she got fired. They were making progress, right? Finally getting some type of law and order, starting to figure out things. And here comes but actually before that, there was a scene that we both talked about that we thought was really cool, is that they were doing the reenactment of the shooting, right? I think we talked about that. So Katagiri, as well as Deputy Director Nagata. They were doing like the reenactment of the shooting, where their key eyewitness, who was actually one of the murderers, got paid by Tozawa to do the murder of Ashita, got assassinated. So they're replaying it, and I don't know how Katagiri did this. I mean, this was like some
expert detective shit.
Yeah, this is expert detective praying mantis type stuff going on right here, because his brain is just going a million miles an hour. He found out that this whole entire time they were trying to figure out who was the mole, right? Like, who's the person? And now we're slowly starting to figure out that I was wrong too. Because we definitely said it was the deputy director, right? We were like, her ass is at everything. She's always there, which she is, but we didn't notice the other guy in the back seat as well. So come to find out, we were trying to figure out how this guy in the I guess that's considered a passenger side of the seat, because the wheels on the other side. The left side rear passenger seat, who was on the on the left of the informant,
the target.
How did he didn't get shot, right? Kind of find out he knew the bikers were coming. He ducked down and he allowed the bullets to penetrate the
past him, the glass.
Yeah, past him to hit the key eyewitness.
And
it's crazy because Tozawa, I mean, somehow he kind of like replayed it and he saw that the guy that was in the back seat kind of looked behind him or looked in the rearview mirror to see this bike coming and immediately ducked down and the shot started firing and killed the guy.
Right. So and now, the bikes were nowhere near him at that point for him to duck his head that early. So Katagiri picked up on that.
Right. Which is crazy. I mean, it's crazy what I guess memory will do for you if you're able to jog it enough at this point. But it's wild and
I loved it.
It was a great detective scene just to show how actually intelligent Katagiri is. You know, I don't think he gets enough credit for how good of a detective he is. We get to see him as like family man and kind of like
burnt out,
burnt out version of Katagiri. But he's got those sparkling star moments where it's like, okay, this dude is obviously very, very valuable to not only the police force, but to everyone else as well. Right. But yeah, I mean, so we get to see that, and of course they go and they meet with the number 2 or the number 1 for Tozawa, and he straight blatantly tells Jake, and Jake had a moment where he thought he was like really cool with his slick hair back, thinking like, yeah, whatever. You know, I thought he was gonna be like, I'm doing whatever I want out here, and the guy's like, look, don't write no more in the paper about Tozawa. And he's like, or what? He's like, well, I'm gonna kill you and I'm gonna kill your family back in Missouri. And Jake's like, oh crap. I think he had like an oh crap moment.
But he tried to play it off though, because he took the cigarette.
I know.
I was smoking it. Like you thought he was gonna be a badass and be like, do it. I dare you. But no, he accepted the offer.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna say something like, I don't even visit my family much. Do what you gotta do, you know, like something of the sorts, but nope, that didn't happen at all. And then of course, when they get ready to leave and he's talking to Katagiri in the elevator, he's like, man, I gotta stop writing, right? Like I have to stop. And Katagiri, just like many others have told him so far, like Emmy has told him so far in this episode, you got to keep pushing for the story, right? And that seems like where all lines are actually leading now, is that though things are getting crazy, and I think Katagiri even said this, he said the only reason that they're threatening you now is that you're very close to having something on them. And that's what's crazy. And I think I think in any situation when things get tough or things get scary, if you push through, you'll finally get to the end, but there's always something to risk, you know, no matter what you're going for at this point. So that was a crazy lesson that, you know, is metaphorically kind of taught in this episode, which is wild to even think about. So then I guess we get to see Sato returning his brother, Kaito, back home, right? I know Kaito's got to feel like kind of stupid, right? He's got to feel kind of like dumb, like, oh, I got to go home to my mom. And
a little bit.
She's going to cuss me out probably, but I'm alive, right? I'm not dead. So that's a plus. And there's it's a weird moment where, you know, Sato's had this animosity towards his mom and his dad for kicking him out in the beginning. And his mom said, you know, you kept your promise and I really appreciate it, but your dad will probably be really proud of you. And she tries to invite him inside for tea, right? And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so sweet. Like, go inside.
Home.
You with your mom, bro. Let's go. And he's like, nah, I got responsibilities now. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, you the boss. My bad. She's probably like, I wonder if she's thinking like, dang, he don't want to be my son. Or she like, yeah, that's my son right there. He a boss, man. He out here running it. You know, I'm not sure how my feelings would have been. But did you think for a moment he was actually going to go inside? Or did you
I did, because we've been talking all season about Sato walking away, right? Finding a way out, trying to do a normal life. And this might have been his opportunity if Ashita didn't die. If Ashita isn't dead, I don't think he goes back. I think he stays goes back to his mom. His mom says, come in, have tea, welcome his brother home with open arms. She welcomed him home for bringing him home. One big happy family. And then Sato says, nope, I kept my promise to you, but now I got to keep my promise to Ishida.
Yeah.
I got responsibilities. So now it seems that he's the new Oyabun of the Shirikai. So he did go back to his family, just not the one we thought he was going back to.
Yeah. I mean, in the sense, he had two different families, right? I mean, one that accepted him for who he was and he chose, the other one that kind of pushed him away and threw him out when things got rough. So
exactly.
I mean, it's in a sense, it's pretty honorable in his part because, you know, he was able to deliver a promise to his mom and kind of keep her happy. And she at least gets to retain one son out of the situation instead of both dead, you know, due to gang violence, obviously, is what we're talking about. Right. So,
but he also kept his promise to Ishida by staying loyal to his family.
Yeah, that's true.
By now, apparently now taking over, because remember last episode, we did the flashback of Ishida when he wasn't going to take Sato in and says, will you remain loyal to this family no matter what?
Yeah.
Sato proved it. No matter what, he was loyal to both his families. He just picked the one we didn't think he'd go with at the beginning of the season.
That's true. God, Sato, man, what a great character.
That's our guy, man. That's our guy.
My boy right there. That's my boy. He don't let me down. He do some dumb stuff sometimes.
I mean, he lets me down with Samantha, but other than that, he doesn't let me down.
I mean, honestly, but think about it. If he would have gone with Erica, his life probably would have been different too, though. Because Erica seems like she's done the whole Yakuza thing before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So she seems like she wants somebody that's not going to be Yakuza.
Stable. She wants someone stable. Yeah.
Right. She wants the daddy, you know, or I mean, that would be the son's daddy. Sorry, not her daddy, but the son's daddy.
Now she wants the nice guy. Yeah.
Right. She's like, I've done this already. I want somebody that's going to be here to play samurai, my son, hang out, Saturday night cartoons, you know, whatever, you know, just relaxing. But then this kind of like peels into another group of family that we've been not really seeing much of, but they're in some trouble as well. Katagiri is moving his family out of their house. They had grandma, the two daughters, and the wife. They all are checking into a hotel because they know, obviously, if Tozawa knows about Jake, Tozawa's got to be the person that was leaving these notes, right? On the cars with the photos. He's got to be the person that's up to all this extracurricular activity. Again, Tozawa once again. But Katagiri has a serious conversation with his wife, and she says, you failed us, because he assured her that I was going to be able to take care of this. I was going to be able to separate work and home, and nothing's going to come back to you, and the kids are going to be fine. Right. And
she's like, you failed.
It's kind of a hard promise to keep, to be honest with you, because there's so many different factors and things that can come into it. But I mean, he's been doing the best he can. Like, let's be honest. But there's too many people. There's too many people showing up at his house in the middle of the night too, though. Like breaking in. His house is too easily broken into. People
too easily found, too easily broken into. Yeah.
At least in the white pages, like what is going on right now? Like this is. Oh yeah, Katagiri. Yeah, he lived right here. Yep. Everybody know where he lived. Like on the street. You need help? Like what is going on? Katagiri. Local market giving directions to Katagiri's house. Like, oh, you need Katagiri. I know him.
You make a left over there at Toyama Street. Yeah.
Make a left. He right there in the corner. Like, all right, this is getting a little wild. But yeah, no. So now they checked into a hotel, and the wife has told Katagiri, which might make him take some extreme measures, I think, or
I hope so.
Not a thought through decision like he usually does. But she said, "You got to end this. I don't care what you got to do. You got
what you need to do.
You got to do what you got to do to keep us safe, because your daughters are staying in a hotel now and not their home, because now we're all running and fearful for our life. And I'm pretty sure the kids not gonna be able to go to school tomorrow or for a long time. You know, like
kids think they're on vacation. Kids think they're on a trip.
No, they not. There's nothing fun in that hotel room. You think about it. Back then, they had these little tiny TVs, no mini fridges. Kids gonna be bored, man. It's gonna be
witness
crazy.
Protection. Yeah.
Self-inflicted witness protection too. It's like on a budget as well. So then we kind of cut towards the end of the episode, but not, I mean, it's getting ready to close out, but we get to see Jake and he's kind of like at a crossroad trying to figure out what am I supposed to do? Right? Like, how can I keep the ones I love safe, but also do my job that I love to do so much? And he decides to call home, right? And for me, it was weird because his phone, or the phone that he uses, is a payphone, right? There wasn't, like, I guess, room phones, because I think he's just renting an apartment. So he goes downstairs and there's a phone outside in a dark alley. And I'm like, oh, this is it. Jake is getting shanked
It's
in the
how he gets
alley.
got.
It's over. That's it. Tozawa ain't even gonna wait for him to make a decision. He's just gonna take him out right now. Jake goes down, puts a little credit card in. Crazy that his phone take a credit card. And I'm like, whoa, no nickels and quarters. That is wild. So calls home. His dad's just waking up in the morning, and he basically is explaining to his dad, I have a problem. His dad still seems kind of standoffish in the beginning of the conversation, because he's like, hey, did you make it back home? He made a comment like, hey, did you make it back home? Because he knows that where Jake refers to this place as his home, opposed to where he lives, right? And I was like, oh, that's a little jab. Like, dad tried to take a little jab at him real quick, which makes sense, because he's still frustrated and kind of doesn't really understand how important this job is to him. But I don't think he's really put himself in his shoes, because the dad probably did the same thing when he was taking his son on these crime scene photography missions, like you taking your son on these ride-alongs. It's kind of like the same thing, right? It was the same thing as him being so dedicated to his job now too. You can only blame yourself for your son being so dedicated to something like this. So he kind of like asked about his sister, seeing how she's doing. He's like, oh, I can go get her on the phone. She's like, no, I really need to talk to you. He's like, I got this guy that's threatening me, and he said he's gonna kill me, and he's gonna kill you guys. And he's like, what? He's like, well, how serious do you think the guy is? And the dad, I mean, I think the misconception of how the parents don't understand how deep Jake is in this stuff is crazy. They're thinking like, oh, some guy on the street, you stepped on his shoe and he said, I'm gonna kill you, type thing. Is how the dad takes it.
Well, no, actually, I'll counter you on that. Okay, I will say the dad, when he said, why do you always find yourself in these types of situations?
Yeah, he did say that, didn't he? Yeah,
so this is normal for Jake to get himself into shenanigans,
right?
But to this level, because his dad asked him, is this a guy who you think is bluffing, or is this a guy that's just really good at bluffing, but you take him seriously?
Right.
And Jake told him, basically, this is a dude that will kill us. Like, I have no doubts about this in my mind. So in a weird bonding father-son moment, Jake asks his dad for help. We don't find out what the help he's asking for is. I'm assuming it has something to do with his dad's connections back in the States, maybe for extradition purposes of Tozawa, what have you. But the fact that Jake is going to his dad, and all season we've looked at Jake as this gaijin who doesn't care about his family back home. We don't really understand his family relationship until last episode. But now he does care about his family. And think about this, and we'll cap it this way. At the beginning of the episode, when he comes back to the paper, he tries to make peace with Tintin. He gives Trendy the jersey. He tries to make peace with Emmy for bringing shame upon the paper for having that blow up in front of everybody. Right? He's not paying attention this episode, thankfully, about Misaki. Right? Not paying attention about her now.
I forgot he forgot about her.
He's focused on Katagiri and the mission. And now when the chips are down, he's not even paying attention to Samantha. He's going straight to his dad and saying, Dad, this is about us, the family, his family. And says, can you help me so I can protect you all? So for me, watch, as much as I can't stand Jake, his growth as a person who, while still chasing the story, now sees the consequences of his actions affecting other people, and now trying to make, at least on the surface, trying to make amends for the fact that he done fucked up too many people this season. And now he wants to make it up to them by putting himself on the line while protecting other people. So kudos to Jake.
Yeah,
give him that.
Yeah, gotta give him his props in this episode because I mean, like you said, it definitely showed a lot of growth of what he finds is important or what he's kind of putting first opposed to everything else. I mean, I think Masaki was a clouded dream, you know. Her presence and just her being around made Jake do irrational things and not even think second about it, you know.
Yep.
But now he has a clear head with her gone. And I hope if she tries to come back, he's just like, you know what?
No, dog.
I think this is not going to work, and give her that damn ankle bracelet back. Because I hope he's still not wearing it either. My God. I know,
and
but
that's
it
not even where the
like
episode ends, by the way.
Though, so I was like, oh, it's tiny, like a little ankle bracelet. But it might be a regular bracelet for all I know. But yeah, and then it kind of
the last part we kicked to.
Right. And the last part at the end of the episode, they we got to see like a news update, right? So Bart so after he gets off the phone with his dad, and at the end his dad basically tells him, if you could put this guy away, you need to keep following the story, right? So this is the third person in this episode telling him you got to push through. Like it is getting, I know it's getting tough and I know it's getting scary, but you got to get there because like Katagiri said, if you didn't have anything on them, they wouldn't be coming after you at this point. So I think Jake is going to try to push through as much as he can, but the episode gets even deeper. When we thought it couldn't get even any more complicated at this point, Jake walks into a bar after getting off the phone with his dad, and he sees that the Minister of Transportation actually steps down and resigns from his position due to a illness, right? Nobody knows what this illness was or how this illness all of a sudden came about, but all of a sudden he's stepping down, and the Minister of Finance, who had been just talking to Tozawa's wife as well as Tozawa recently, is getting promoted to the Minister of Transportation. And to just give you guys a little outline of Minister of Transportation does, they do everything, literally loading docks, right? Taxation, labor costs. They also do travel, different stuff with different embassies, as well as like Tozawa said, the Olympics, right? They get to function all that and figure out everything. So when you hear transportation, you think like, oh, they run the metro system. No, it's literally everything that comes in and out of that country is what the Minister of Transportation deals with, which I think is insane. So the scene kind of cuts out, and it's Tozawa and his wife just like grinning at the TV, like, yeah, we did this. We about to get this money. Like it's about to get crazy out here. And did we miss anything in the episode? I think that was pretty.
No, I think we've exhaustively covered this episode. This might be our longest review.
One. I think this was our longest review. There was a lot. I mean, every episode has a lot of components to it, but this one.
This was my favorite episode. This is 5 out of 5, man. 5 out of 5.
Same. And without
we hit everything.
You already know. Yeah, they did great. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, I'm saying we hit everything. So that's why this review went a little longer than most of our ones typically do. But the best part for me, and again, we can bookend this, and saying at the beginning, we talked about bit players. Tozawa's wife now seems to be a guiding force in his career, and also a bit player. Jake's dad now potentially holds Jake and the family's future. And now Tintin, another bit player, holds the keys to Emmy's boss. And also, we did miss one small thing. Emmy's brother had a little bit of a moment.
Yeah, he had like a little second.
Talking about your mans can't take care of you. I can take care of you.
It's kind of weird.
So yeah, it's a little weird, familial, Oedipal, like, but that was a small part. We didn't really touch on that. But from beginning to end, this book end with characters who on paper seem small, but the next couple of episodes seem as if they're going to have a bigger trajectory for the rest of the season. I'm excited. I can't wait to see the rest of it.
Yeah, same. I'm excited to see where it goes. Every episode, honestly, is just leading into a bigger and better finale at this point, and it's exciting. But if you guys haven't already, make sure you go in and check out Tokyo Vice Season 2, Episode 8, premiering on March 22nd on Max. If you guys haven't already, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you can be the first ones to know about new content that we drop week to week. If you like more reviews just like this, make sure you go ahead and follow us at biggoldbeltmedia.com. Until next time, peace.